into the nitty-gritty behind monsters from different lore. However, there is a general focus on D&D.
We are players and DMs, so we draw from our experience with different tabletop RPGs, and we tend to go off on tangents every so often.
If you're looking for facts and historical value, this may not be the podcast for you. But if you love discussing monsters and all of their potential, just for fun, then we got you covered.
Adult content warning, and with all that out of the way, my name is Dylan, and I'm joined once again by my two brave monster hunters.
I'm Alex.
And I'm Melina.
And this is Mornings with Monsters.
Today we are going to start looking around the Underdark for a ball of flying spaghetti, basically. That's what I gathered from my my research. The Flumph is our topic of discussion today.
The Flumph. So, I think it was Melina, you had asked, is there enough information on the Flumph to even do an episode?
Yeah.
My goodness, there is. I knew it was a bit of a rabbit hole, but much as we've come to find out with every monster, the rabbit hole goes much deeper than we may have initially thought. It's a first edition monster.
I know. Did you see the drawing from the first edition?
Yeah, there's been a new depiction of it for every edition.
I love that though. Oh my god, it's hilarious. I feel like that helps so much though. I love when they do a new one for every thing. The second one looks
feel a lot more realistic. I feel like.
Yeah. I mean,
third edition,
because it is expanding. It's not just expanding a universe. It's kind of recreating it every time.
Mm-hmm.
I will say.
Evolution.
Yeah, I mean, much like the kobolds, pretty wild change from their initial. I mean, not as I would say similar vein where essentially it's the same thing. It's just reimagined.
We have the one edition that does it
super
pretty
wild
differently. I feel like the third edition one, you guys saw my face. I was like, what the fuck is that? It looks very different than as far as it's supposed to be the same creature, it looks different. The only similar, I don't know, it kind of looks like it has 5 mouths.
Yeah.
And that's probably where the air comes from, right? Where when they move themselves.
Well,
yeah.
You know, it's weird that they even have a mouth.
Yeah.
They don't
talk.
They don't need one. Yeah, they don't speak.
They're telepathic speakers.
Even when they eat, they absorb their stuff through tentacles, right?
They absorb mental energy for sustenance. Yeah. So I don't know. I don't know if they actually have to physically.
I did read that they do sometimes eat non-psionic energy, physical things.
They are carnivores.
Well, yeah.
That's probably why they have a mouth then.
And stuff. Yeah. Okay, so this might be jumping the gun, but we mentioned these tubular air things. So there's something that bothers me. I'm I have to fucking bring this up. So the way they move around is they have essentially jets that help them propel one way or another, kind of thing. And that keeps them hovering. But yet you can use their body parts to create a potion of levitation.
Their powdered brain, yeah.
Why can you use their brain to create a levitation potion when they use a mechanic to levitate and move?
So
I was under the assumption that they can
levitate on their own.
Because it says right here, flumphs float between 4 to 6 inches above the by means of an innate anti-gravity field, and then moved by using air jets as propulsion.
So
Okay.
they're always kind of floating, but then it's like the air jets that they use to propel themselves in direction.
Yeah.
And it's not like they're going super fast. They're not air jets like, a plane. They still only have 30 feet of movement while flying and 5 feet while not
I'm
flying.
trying to think of there's like an ocean creature I know who does similar movement, like where it's like little.
I think I know what you're talking about.
So
but it's like up of air.
I'm not 100% sure. I mean, like the squid using its ink to propel itself kind of comes to mind, but I know that's not what you're thinking.
Smaller.
Yeah,
No,
or at least like when it
something.
inks and then like,
I feel like it's like a mollusk that I'm thinking about, where it's like it swims by like opening its shell and then snapping it shut and creating like thrust, basically.
That makes sense.
Yeah. And
Weird.
And a flying spaghetti monster was pretty much a great description. But if you guys are listening to this and you've never heard of a flumph, which is a hard word to say, go look one up because they are interesting. They're basically like little jellyfish with eye stalks. And there's a bunch of different pictures of them. They're super cute or not so cute, depending on, personal preference.
Yeah.
But yeah, they're cute little guys you find in the Underdark, and they've been non-threatening since Edition 1. And non-threatening's kind of loose because they could damage you, I guess, but they're not necessarily... Like, if you read their stat block, it doesn't seem like they are a combatant creature. Like, it seems like they are used to, maybe put something in your path that gives you, like, should we kill this thing? A moral obstacle rather than a feat of strength, I would say.
It's a pretty solid puzzle for murder hobos, in my opinion.
Yeah, I think that's initially what they were, to be honest. It said, like, early editions, if you're lost somewhere, the Flumph are good people to give you directions. But at face value, they are rather large, and they're giant floating tentacle monsters that speak in your mind and shoot poisonous gas out. And they live in the Underdark. And they're one of the only things.
Hives of mind flares.
Yes.
True that.
Yeah.
You don't expect... It's very much so like a parasite for the mind flares, because mind flares don't necessarily get anything from the relationship, but it's like, because the mind flares put off such a strong psionic energy, because they all speak telepathically, which we've covered in the podcast already, because the flumps feed off the psionic energy, they will colonize a little bit, like close to the mind flare colonies, so that way they don't have to like source, they don't have to find anything, everything's just right there. But at the same time, when you see like, between 1 and 25 like possibly glowing red spaghetti monsters, that when you're like you're kind of, maybe you're on the way to fight some mind flares, you're like, what the fuck is this?
Yeah. To touch on the glowing red thing, I read that they're much like a mood ring, and their body changes, but they only have like 3 different colors or something.
4. There's
okay.
Pink, blue, I think green, and red. And then the thing about the flumps that I found really truly interesting is that because they can hear within 60 feet any telepathic conversation going on.
Yeah.
They are also affected by like evil thoughts.
Yeah.
Because they're not evil, and they are actually quite susceptible to like emotional duress by evil.
Yeah.
So like their bodies will glow red even if they hear someone else thinking evilly, like they don't actually have to be angry. That's kind of why I'm
thinking they're probably glowing red if they're a host, like their general psionic energy is coming from mind flares, just because mind flares do tend much more towards evil. I mean, like we've talked about, it's almost impossible to find a mind flare that is not evil leaning.
It's true. And if you're going to be seeing mind flares, seeing a bunch of spaghetti monsters glowing red near them, it's like, okay, those look like pets, you know?
I think that the Mind Flare and the Flumph would have a very interesting relationship. I don't necessarily think that they would or could drive the Flumph towards being, an evil being.
I don't think so either.
I think the Flumph is more intelligent than almost anything else you're going to find in the Underdark. Like the Mind Flare has a higher intelligence score than the Flumph, but I feel like from Scion to Scion, it would be such a like a feast of a conversation for both sides, because they say that the Flumph, when they talk to each other, if a normal human were to hear basically the Flumph's crazy language, it would be incomprehensible, and they would bring up such crazy topics like mind altering, dimension traveling, like reality bending topics that it would mean nothing to us, but to a Mind Flare who also has a crazy intelligence score and has a completely different outlook on life. I feel like maybe even if their alignments are complete opposite, they would coexist just purely to have someone to as on their level of intelligence to speak to.
Which is funny because it's said that Mind Flayers basically ignore the Flumph.
Yeah, maybe that's what it is.
They
have no interest in them.
Yeah, it's so interesting to me.
Well, the Flumph, it's when they take their energy from that the mental energy or whatever that they feed off of. It's not like they're eating them or hurting them. It's they just take what they need, and they most likely wouldn't even notice.
Yeah, and I mean the Flumph are described as a monastic society, and so they're set up very religiously in our human minds. They're called cloisters, and they have an elevated Flumph followed by a good grouping of the whole population of Flumph right under them. And so I really don't see the hierarchies of both lifestyles being compatible enough where the Illithid would care enough to talk to them rather than dominate them.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. So there's again, going through so many editions, some conflicting ideas of the Flumph as far as the religious aspect goes. They say, I read some parts that they're unknown gods that they worship. In other places, there's pretty solid gods that they worship that are known. And I think 5e, they are actually, I think it was 5e where they don't like people controlled by outside sources, which leads them to dislike things like paladins and clerics because they see them as puppets to a greater being. It's kind of they don't like things that are being mind controlled. I know, yeah.
They're such a deity-based society.
Yeah. Well,
that
here, I didn't read this anywhere, but this is kind of my perspective on the hierarchy. I think it's less priests and the Pope than it is monks and they may follow the leader of a temple, but the leader of the temple isn't necessarily at a higher level of anyone. They've just studied for longer, and they understand the karmic system and things like that a little bit more. Just to teach or whatever, because my biggest discovery from researching the Flumphs was that they can astral project their consciousness into different dimensions and speak to other beings of great mental power and then come back and reform themselves. So even if you kill a Flumph, right before it dies, it can shoot its consciousness into the astral plane or on the same plane, just in a ghost-like form, and travel around the world and come back. That's what made me think of them more as monks, because maybe that elevated one has just been around. They've talked to golden dragons. They've talked to great creatures from different planes, the astral creatures, and they just understand more. Kind of like it gives me a bit of like the Buddhist like cycles,
Yeah.
a little bit more than it does like
Your
praying
journey
to a god.
nirvana.
Yeah.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
One thing I will say is after reading information on them, I really regret not trying to get a Flumph to be our party member.
Yeah.
Because we did encounter a Flumph in a campaign. Flumph in a campaign. And I'm just like, okay, so any when we talked about them like hearing evil thoughts or like hearing like not good conversation, well, because of their like moral alignments and the fact that they will glow red with anger, essentially to like dissipate that, they have to tell a good aligned creature like as quickly as possible. So I'm like, imagine like, yeah, sure, the glowing is inconvenient, but like just being able to have like the ultimate spy,
the sense emotions like force field.
We have like
but like
canary.
Yeah,
I feel like you can sense emotions through like certain capabilities with different like things that we have access to, but like
let me tell you the problem with that of traveling with a Flumph.
I'm sure there's many problems.
Honestly, I'm only going to bring up one. You're traveling with a Flumph, you get in any kind of fight, and it gets caught up in an area of effect attack, and it's dead.
That's fair.
Like immediately. It's got like, I think, 4 maybe.
Okay.
Not a lot. It's because it's a non-combatant. I mean, it can fight, and if you're level 1 or 1 to 3 even, it can kill you if it gets lucky and you roll bad.
Or there's more than one. Yeah.
So yes, it almost balances itself. They have 7 hit points.
Okay.
7 hit points. It balances itself because, like, you could take a whole army of Flumph, but one breath attack, done.
Yeah, I mean, I don't necessarily. I think it would be more for like scouting purposes than for actual fight. So it's like, say we encountered a like colony or a thing of Flumph, and then like we knew we were going to this like very dangerous area, like we could still get like it scouted.
I mean, if Lauren ever runs across a Flumph with the party, like there will be no convincing him not to take it with him.
Yeah. Well, yeah.
He probably knows them fairly well, and I feel like he is like an eccentric enough to be like, yeah, we need a spaghetti monster.
Yeah, there's a whole like one shot of basically Lorne finding Flumphs. There was like some early like description of the Flumphs. I think it was like ecology or something, where like a party finds them and dissects them, and yeah.
And it's funny because when I was reading that,
I was thinking like,
this is so not worth like how many of these things have to die for just one spell.
No.
Yeah.
I was thinking like the whole time I was reading, I was like, this would be a horrible thing for like a wizard to do, and
then you're like, but my character would do it. Yeah.
He would.
Yeah, I think it would be super cool to have a Flumph. I think you could totally find a way to keep it protected.
Yeah.
It would just be game breaking, and no one, like adventurers, sure, they see Flumphs. Yeah. People that don't travel to the Underdark, which is 90% of people, probably 99% of people, would be terrified to see a Flumph.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So it's scarier than like a Dragonborn, like as far as like societal norms, I would say.
Yeah, I mean, it would be essentially like walking around with a drow.
Sure.
You know, like people know what they are, and they might know somebody who knows somebody who's actually seen one, but they themselves have never been confronted with the idea that they exist in reality, and it would blow their minds, I feel like.
Yeah. Yeah, I think I did a disservice to the Flumph when I kind of just randomly threw him in at you guys in the campaign. because I didn't deep dive research them, and I probably would have role played them a little bit differently. But they were like an encounter where it was like, oh shit, what are these things? What do we kill them or not kill them? Which I think that's a great way to use them. Is
I agree.
Just like throw a bunch of them at you, and now they start speaking in your mind, and they can hear your thoughts when you try and talk to each other in your minds, and which I don't think any of you guys were doing. But
all right, so I found out how the type of Flumph we need to find. The type of Flumph cloister we need to get. We need to get a cloister.
Oh my goodness.
That has already recruited a mind witness. Because I can't figure out why they would want to recruit them other than for like protection.
Oh, like the mind witness would protect them?
Yeah. It says that like they will recruit like I believe like estranged mind witnesses. And I was like, oh, what's a mind witness?
Yeah, they're terrifying.
They're terrifying. A mind witness is created by a mind flare sticking its tadpole into a beholder.
That's right. We talked about that.
Those are scary.
That's fucking horrifying. Like and it's a lawful evil creature, which like essentially the Flumph have the ability to like change its alignment.
Yeah, like, don't they just like overwhelm it with goodness?
I would assume, yeah, it's kind of like a
mind blast
attack, yeah. Good. But I was like, this thing looks terrifying.
Yeah, it is fucked up.
But
yeah, it's super scary. Look up a picture.
A beholder and a mind flare. So
it's gross. It's not as
tentacles on both ends, bro.
Yep. It's like a mind flare face with tentacles coming down, one eye in the middle, and then beholder tentacles up. There's
no face. It's just an eye.
Yeah, no, I mean just like the
beholder.
Yeah. Yeah.
Or mine,
Yeah, yep. They're squishy, they're mean, and they can use disintegrate.
Terrifying.
Scary spell.
But I think that is probably the only way. That's probably how they survive. Like,
I think
without, not wholly, but in more dangerous areas. Like,
sure.
Say they are by a colony that is not, like, what is it? The Githyanki.
Githyanki, yeah.
Githyanki will kill them on sight. Like, they violently hate them.
They don't like them at all.
Because of their psionic abilities, probably. I don't think they like that kind of stuff.
Yeah, it just like irks them, I think.
Your very existence must be eradicated. Okay.
Terminate.
They are aberrations.
Aberrations, yeah.
That's weird.
Flumph are?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Interesting.
So that I just looked at that. That's a very strange thing.
I feel like aberrations are kind of like they're similar to
I mean, that's mind flares, beholders, aboleths.
Yeah.
So I mean, same vein, just the good version.
Yeah.
The cool little good version. Yeah.
They come from the far realm.
I don't know. It's just like I'm shook that they, because I didn't see anything about their preferred climate or like why are they in the Underdark? Why is that their choice place? Because of mind flares? I would think that a Flumph would have more like have a better time hanging out in like a big city with all the mines.
Can you harvest as much psionic energy from a big city of normal people as you can from a
College of Wizards, maybe? Like there's a lot of people with higher intelligences in big cities. Like maybe not so much as like potent as the mind flare.
And I was gonna say too that if in D&D there's like a huge difference between magic and psionic energy because like in the Legend of Drizzt, one of the books covers this moment in the Forgotten Realms when magic stops. Like it doesn't work for a time period. And during that time period in the Underdark, there's one house of drow that forsook the use of magic and instead chooses to go towards their psionic abilities. And they were the only house in the kingdom that could actually do any sort of ability, because all of the other ones are magic based. And like that makes it seem like the Flumph are in a position where they know what they need to eat, and they're like at the fount basically.
Yeah.
Because
Yeah.
it's rare outside of mind flayers to find more than one single like anomaly who uses psionic power.
Sure. Okay, I gotcha. Yeah, because everything that's still living around the mind flayers are using it. Like, so there's just a wellspring.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah, that tracks. It's just strange to me that this lawful good creature is surrounding itself by,
Oh, I also saw, where was it? There's like a reference to them being maybe from the astral plane.
Yeah, that I think makes sense. I mean, they have dark vision too, which kind of leads me to believe they're comfortable in the dark. Obviously, they live in caves and stuff, but...
Oh, here we go. It's speculated that Flumphs are genetically related to Grells or Balabras due to some physiological similarities such as their hovering and the presence of tentacles. Given the probable genetic ties to Grells, most sages agree that Flumphs originated on a different world and traveled as a clandestine passenger on a Grell spelljammer.
Oh, okay. So yeah, they're from somewhere in space.
Yeah, and maybe one reason is that they're used to like the confines of space, or the fact that like wherever the ship that they were on, maybe it landed in the Underdark.
Yeah.
And they just never...
I love how that little insert's written like, well, we don't really know, but it's speculated by great ancient sages. It's like,
yeah,
it's all fantasy. Just say it is or it isn't, or don't, because it's also more fun. But that's so good. Sorry to cut you off.
It leads to discussions like we're having right now.
Yeah, exactly. No, it's really good stuff.
I think that the reason that they wouldn't go to cities, maybe it's like there's something to do with the overwhelmingness of different psionic energies, because like they know that when they are by mind flayers, like they're gonna get like a streamline of the same psionic energy. They're not going to be taking on like all these different minds. They're going to be taking on essentially one mind.
That's true.
A bunch of things.
Yeah.
And like one track of like, it's probably easier to take on. Whereas like in a city,
more different personalities in a city.
Yeah, like too many personalities, or like overwhelming their systems almost. Like maybe they don't function quite as like easily, and like this is all speculation because
that's what we do here. Was speculation. Yeah. What about like a good aligned dragon?
Okay, and like while I totally understand that, is it going to be putting off enough psionic force for them to stay healthy?
Some of them. There's a lot of dragons.
Yeah, and
some lean more. Yeah, I guess maybe they do hang out with them. They're just hard to find.
Yeah. And I mean, how many adventurers live to tell that tale?
No. Well, I mean, if they're good aligned, and the Flumph are good aligned.
Well, and it's also possible that these like
maybe not
creatures have like societies of Flumphs like underground.
Yeah.
Even know that they're by them or that they're drawing from them.
Yeah.
Especially if they're just good on their own. They're just like, we're just going to be here in our own little thing.
Yeah, and they're extremely smart, and they know that they'll probably just get killed because they're fodder for, people that are ignorant to what they are. So I guess that tracks. I mean, that would be a scary thing. Like, if a giant flying tentacle monster started speaking in my mind, I would feel threatened, I'd say, as a normal human.
Yeah. I would assume
with one hit point.
I would probably just like get paralyzed in fear and maybe even like poop my pants.
Probably. They probably have that ability.
Yeah, it's a lot. That's a lot to take in.
Yeah.
Like I would think it was something different.
Yeah, like some angel or something like that.
I don't know.
Sent from the heavens. I would not
Be
think
not
that.
afraid.
I would be like, alien. It's gotta
Yeah.
be. There's no way
Yeah.
something this
Well,
big
yeah.
has never been seen or uncovered. Although, I mean, if they got no bones, they got no fossils.
That's true.
And they got no bones. How do you know
Who
they don't have no
knows?
bones?
I'm just assuming. They probably got one bone. Maybe. I don't know. How do squids work? Do they have bones?
Why would you
think
compare it
so.
to a squid? I would guess it's more like a jellyfish.
Okay, jellyfish definitely don't have bones.
Don't have bones.
Exactly. It maybe the jelly, maybe it's more of like an exoskeleton than we realize.
I think this thing's squishy. It's got 7 hit points.
I think it's
I don't think
it
it's got very
a
many.
membrane.
I don't think it's got any kind of armored defenses.
I feel like the tentacles are probably the like most sturdy part because they have like a oil secretion,
Yeah.
and so it was described that they have like a double membrane in the tentacles. So I'm assuming that that's going to be the like stiffest part of them.
Yeah.
so
That's where their feelers are for grab things.
Yeah.
Alrighty, guys. I'm seeing an ominous pink. Oh, it's turning red. Ominous red
Uh-oh.
glow
We don't
coming
like
from the
that.
other room. I'm going to go investigate. We'll be right back.
Be careful.
Although that's amusement into anger, so I don't know about that.
They thought it
They
was
might have
funny
been-
until we said they're weak little boys. Hey guys, welcome back to another middle of the episode. I hope you enjoyed today's discussion about the Flumph, one of my favorite super cool little dudes speaking into your mind and changing colors. As always, thank you for listening, and a huge shout out to @MizenCake. Check them out on Instagram. They did our cover art. Super, super cool, and we definitely appreciate it. If you found this podcast on a little QR sticker stuck somewhere, or maybe handed out to you, thank you, first of all. And second of all, a huge shout out to @Olava's Cryptid Crafts for doing that for us. That is pretty much all I got for you. Again, thanks for listening. Make sure you tell everybody you know, and you can listen together next week, next Friday, for our next episode and our next morning with our next monster. All right, that's all I got for you. Thank you so much for listening. We will see you next week. Bye. Alright guys, I'm back. I'm safe. It looks like they were pink because of their emotions, and then they sensed my fear and fight or flight instinct and turned red. But they did mention that we should talk about something they don't appreciate, and that is the fact that they have prone deficiency. They say everyone thinks it's funny, but it's not.
I'm sorry. I'm sorry.
So I don't even know if this is a thing for other creatures, but maybe. All right, maybe a turtle, right? Prone deficiency is essentially when they're knocked prone, they roll a die, and on the odd result, the Flumph lands upside down and is incapacitated at the end of the turn, and it can try and get back over. But it's like you flip it upside down. This creature of immense like mental strength, once it's upside down, it's out.
It's pretty much
like,
it's gonna be like spinning around trying to flip itself over.
Yeah, so you get advantage on everything. Like, I mean,
not that you need it.
No, and if you're knocking it prone, you're probably doing damage to it too.
Yeah.
So unless you're doing 6 damage and knocking it prone, like, it's dead. It's already dead.
Yeah.
It's like they wanted me to mention that because they just don't think it's fair. Like,
it's not very fair in my
They
opinion.
have 7 hit points.
Like, they're good little guys and they can't go upside down.
I also think that if they have like an innate anti-gravity field, why? Yeah.
I don't know because like does it only work in one direction? I don't think that's how gravity works. But
they do have that hole on the top of their head, right?
It depends what picture you're looking at, but I think that's their mouth.
Mm-hmm.
They all have the hole / mouth on the top.
Maybe it's because they can't breathe.
air jet on the bottom.
But they're space creatures. They don't breathe.
See, now we're just finding more holes with this.
Yeah.
I'm with the Flumph. This
Yeah.
should be changed.
I don't think it's gonna be. It's the Flumph
We'll have to
like
we'll get a petition signed.
See, the Flumph are unique, obviously, but they're unique when it comes to monsters that have been in every edition, because their actual like stat block hasn't changed that much. Like, obviously, the way stat blocks work has changed, but they still have the same basic abilities that they did in Edition 1. Like, the Stench Spray, that's an Edition 1 thing. They're flying. They get their name Flumph from the noise they make as they walk. You know, they're high intelligence. Pretty much everything else. Their Dex is okay. Their Wisdom's okay. Like they are a classic creature. Their strength sucks, but they haven't changed that much. I mean, I could be wrong, but I feel like the other monsters we've talked about go through pretty drastic changes from first to fifth. Like, some go from first crazy changes back to their base of what was first. But these ones are pretty solid as far as like they're just the Flumphs are the Flumph. They got a good creature and they kept them that way.
Balance.
Yeah.
You know?
They are just a good non-combatant, non-fighting encounter, or a fighting encounter where you feel bad about it at the end.
Yeah, hopefully.
They're a good conundrum encounter.
It is. I agree that it gives you a quandary when you face them.
I could sense you guys about to attack them when they were sitting there saying, "Don't kill us."
I know. I was like, "What's gonna happen?" I didn't think I wanted to attack, but I was also not sure what they were. And I have some rowdy party members, so
yes, you
not
do.
Sure.
I didn't even know the thing about the mind flayers when they were talking about their friend, the mind flayer, but like it just it was just meant to be, because you guys were rolling on random tables and you rolled on the Flumph encounter and the mind flayer encounter, so I smashed them together in my brain and made them friends.
Perfect.
And it just, I don't know, the die tell their story, I guess.
Flumph would say that too. Like, it would be like, yeah, my friend the mind flayer, and the mind flayer would be like, what?
Yeah, they're all right, I guess. I mean, that specific mind flayer would have liked them a little more because he was broken.
Oh, that's right. He was broken.
He only had like one big tentacle on the front of his face or something, and he was not evil. He was a tinfoil hat.
Yeah, that's right.
I like to call him the tinfoil hat mind flayers.
He was the one that led us to the bad one, right?
He didn't really.
He didn't. He told us there was the city under.
He connected you to a vision of like the hive that he was from.
That's right. Because I feel like I can remember exactly what he did, but I feel like he gave us so much information.
He did give you the first look at the capital city of the continent you're on, and that fact that there's a mind flare hive underneath it.
Yeah.
So yeah. A big part of
for our listeners out there, we have a lot. I have too much going on in my campaign.
So much going on.
So much. I don't know about too much. Just enough though.
Just enough to keep you guys scared all the time and kill everything right away.
That we run through all of the.
You're like, we gotta go. You're like, we can't stop and smell the roses ever.
I've literally been thinking. I'm like, can unicorns ride in snowstorms? Do we take the time to go back to all those like abandoned temples and find out information that we still don't know? Are we going to find the information out in this fucking maze? This doesn't make sense to any of the listeners, but that's what my brain is.
They're all lost.
Unicorns in the snow, secret maze. Yeah. All right. What's next? How about some prompt questions?
Yeah.
I think we're all going to agree on the fact of, are they over or underutilized? Very underutilized. So much. Like,
I didn't know they existed until
you met one. Yeah.
Yeah.
And even then, I didn't know enough about them. I wish we would have done this first almost. Although not really, because you guys would have been looking for mind flayers after you met them. You would have been like, where are the mind flayers? Although every time I've used a monster, in my campaign that we've talked about, I try and use them in a way that we didn't discuss.
Yeah.
Just to keep you guys on your toes.
I don't remember what we talked about at the beginning of this episode, let alone...
Well, I've recently used kobolds, but they were very different than anything we talked about.
Cool.
They were very different than anything we talked about.
Are you gonna let us meet the crystal dragon?
You met him.
Oh yeah, that's right. We talked to him right at the end, didn't we?
Yeah, he gave you guys all a godly boon. Something I don't know if we'll discuss here because it's not a great strategy from the DM side. I was just
DMs do not need.
No, don't use that. Yeah, don't use that.
A bunch of players being like, "Give us a boon! Give us a boon!"
Yeah. So they're definitely underutilized. I think that if people knew more about the Flumph, they would be excited to use them, especially if you want to run early Underdark encounters, right?
Yes.
Underdark is a dangerous place, and I would say it's generally like a mid-level thing. Too high level, and a lot of people want to jump right into it because unfortunately, a lot of campaigns don't get past like level 5, level 8.
Yeah.
So this is a great way to kind of create that early moral quandary, that early obstacle that's not just kill the goblins. So.
Plus, they're really smart, so they can give you information if you don't kill them.
Oh, also goblins love to eat them.
I would do the same thing with the deep gnomes too. You know, because they're goodly and they have a vast society in the Underdark, but they'll fight you.
I totally see the deep gnomes using them as canaries in the mines.
Absolutely. It's actually funny because I've read so many Forgotten Realms books, but I've never run across them.
Yeah, they don't come up a lot, which is wild. I mean, they probably do in random pre-written Underdark campaigns and stuff, but just not. We want more Flumph in the world. Give us more Flumph out there, you DMs and writers and.
We need to write Joe Magniello. What is his last name?
I
don't know.
He got close.
He's an actor, and now he writes for D&D.
Amazing.
Yeah.
So normally we ask, are they actually evil? I guess for this, I'll say, does their alignment on the stat block make sense? Lawful good.
I agree.
I think yes. I think they're lawful good because they follow a code, their own code, but that code is pretty fucking chaotic.
Yeah.
I think so. I mean, compared to what my lawful good would be if that was my alignment as a person. I would feel like I would have a more structured sense of lawfulness than they do because they're hanging out with mind flayers. That's chaotic. Being friends with the mind flayer is chaotic.
I guess so, because it would be utilizing something that falls outside of them for their own good. That's pretty chaotic.
I think though, one of the reasons that they utilize the mind flayers is because the mind flayers could not fucking care less about them, and other things are not going to be that predictable. So
I guess mind flayers are
are adventurers going to kill me, or are mind flayers going to ignore me? I also think, I don't know if we put them a little bit too integrated. I think it's much more
rare.
The mind flayer colony is here and the Flumph colony is adjacent, but
walking around.
They're not integrated. With
no.
I don't think players would accept them into their actual area.
Yeah.
So I don't think that so I do think there is a lawful goodness to there, but I think if anything it would be neutral, just because they're willing to,
take on
be a parasitic type of creature, on whether it be a good society or
and maybe that's why they do it to an evil society, is that they the parasitic nature of like their feeding, they wouldn't want to do that on a goodly natured people.
Yeah. It's just, for me, these things read a lot as like something from the Fae. Like the telepathy, like the mind reading, the prone deficiency even is pretty chaotic. And there's just not a lot of lawful good. But they're not Fae, so.
And I mean, maybe that's a testament to them being from outer space too, is that like they have rules that we can't really fathom, but they stick to them and adhere to them, you know, as a genealogy, not just like a social structure.
Yeah. So, I mean, lawful good makes sense. I think chaotic good also might make sense. Or lawful neutral. I mean,
I feel like chaotic good would be better than lawful neutral because of their habit of expressing any evil that they do to a goodly person. Like that's pretty like good.
Yeah.
You know,
that's
they
true.
put the knowledge that they know is evil in the hands of someone who could maybe change it.
Yeah, they don't attack on sight ever.
Yeah.
So, yeah, that's fair. Also, why are they vulnerable to psychic damage? I feel like they should at least have a resistance to it.
Well, I'm assuming it's because like they're susceptible to like evil thoughts and like it will change like their actual body like color.
At least their glow.
Yeah, and so I would assume that's the reason why. It does say that they pretty much stay within an open communication. Like if there's a thought expressed, they know it.
So it's kind of like easy to attack as far as like
like they don't have a defense up for it.
Yeah, okay, that's fair. Why aren't they resistant to poison when they have poison inside their bodies?
Do they have poison inside their bodies, or do they?
I mean, you got to have something inside your body if you're creating a toxic, foul-smelling liquid that you're shooting at people.
That's true.
But you're doing that in your tentacles.
I mean, so their tentacles should have like at least resistance, if not immunity to poison, because like that can like give you the poisoned status. At least it could in 1E or first edition, which can kill you quickly.
Yeah,
like once you're poisoned, you're just dead in first edition.
So
I don't know. Just thought like maybe at least a resistance. Like I think most creatures that use poison in any capacity, like forgiving spell users, should have a resistance to poison. But
yeah, I mean, fuck, even dwarves have natural resistance to poison.
And that's just because they have high constitution from alcoholic consumption.
For drinking.
Yeah.
I don't think I have a resistance to poison. I don't think
you should too. You're a fucking poison mushroom lady.
That's what I think, you know, I will agree with that. I think there is not enough resistance to poison, like innate abilities.
Yeah.
Because I think that's what I was looking for when we got poisoned by something.
Yeah.
Because I was like, no way Aster
can get poisoned. Yeah.
Poisonable.
Yeah.
But like, the paladins can't. They can get poisoned, but they just can't get a disease from it or anything.
Okay.
I don't know. It's just like, for me, they do such a good job about resistances, immunities on so many monsters, and like they're like really, really well thought through. And the Flumph is just like, nope, they take poison damage, but they also can deal poison damage from within their body because it's not a spell. I mean, they could cast cleric spells in second edition.
They can, yeah.
Yeah, I don't know if they still can, but at some point they could cast cleric spells, which is weird. Not weird, I guess, but
yeah, they say they tied that because of the like gods that they worship.
Yeah,
and I'm assuming it's like cleansing spells.
Probably get rid of all that poison.
Yeah.
So the Flumph, I mean, why are they misunderstood? People don't know what they are, but like if you know what a Flumph is at face value, what's the misconception, I guess?
I guess it would be that they live where they do.
Sure.
You know, and like there's got to be reasons that like as humans or non-Flumph, like that they are there, but we just don't know. And I mean, unless they were to tell us, and why would they, you know?
Yeah.
We would never really know. And I feel like that's one thing that we could use to help us understand them more, is like, why do they live in probably one of the most hostile areas of this world, surrounded by people who enslave every other thing that lives there for their own doing? Like, it is a pretty terrible place to be if you're a
Not
goodly
great.
creature.
Yep.
No. And then,
There's
you know,
scary
like,
things in the dark.
right, as opposed to the deep gnome who live like hidden in giant chambers that they like dig out and then, you know,
Yeah.
disguise like as a rock. Like, you know, they are separate, and so
Yeah.
like they don't ever want to be confronted by other members of the Underdark, you know. They work when they work, and then they dip the fuck out, you know. I don't think it's an understood thing that they can not only live out in the open, but so close to some of the most powerful beings in the world, let alone in the Underdark. It's weird.
Do you think that their gravity field only works well in the Underdark so that they don't keep floating away? And that's why they have to have like a roof over them?
That's it.
They're just safer there.
Because when you're reading about the Underdark, like in the Forgotten Realms books, like they describe that like it's so far down that like a normal person, when they're brought like from slavery or whatever, they have to get used to just the pressure of
like
thousands and thousands of pounds of rock above them, you know?
Yeah.
So maybe there is something about that like helps dampen that levitation.
Yeah. It's just like, imagine you bring your Flumph up to the surface and he just goes straight up. Straight up. Like, I'm going home.
You try to catch him and you just like get like, stinky snapped all over.
Like a shitty balloon. I think the biggest misconception I had, and probably other DMs have, is like you're looking up Underdark encounters on the internet and you come across the Flumph, and then you research them, you realize it's a non-combat encounter, and then you decide to roleplay them however you're going to roleplay them. And I was looking up common ways to kind of roleplay them, and a lot of people go for the same thing I went for and do like the childish or like the innocent voice. Some people even do like the super chill, like stoner voice, you know. After all this research, they are extremely intelligent and are capable of thought that we can't comprehend. They astral project into other realms and speak to beings of great power, and they're role played as like basically unintelligent children. You know, I think that's a big misconception. I think, and I'm sure I'm not the first person to do that, because that's how they're commonly played. Point. You know, you could play them as very like prestigious and like very understanding of the realms and concepts of rebirth and, you know, things like that. So
or make them have like the real echoey voice, because they know a lot but they still want to like have fun with it.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, they could really fuck with you, but they're lawful good, so they won't. Okay, cool. Well, we're getting close there, you guys. These Flumph are not showing any color now behind me, so I'm not sure what that means. Let's talk about how we would like to use them or see them used in gameplay or media. I can go first.
Do it.
Like I said, the most interesting thing about the Flumph to me is like the astral projection and the fact that they travel and speak to all these great beings and everything. And that just makes me, it really makes me think of like the path of enlightenment. Not just like we said previously, like Buddhism, but just like the idea of it in like a D&D or fantasy setting, right? So I think it would be really, really cool to see or like read a story of someone who's seeking that greater truth, and they go to everything and they research all the creatures that may shed some insight into this, and like maybe a monk or someone like that finds this creature that can astral project and recreate its body and goes to study with them, and somehow like, you know, learns of this and goes on these astral projecting adventures to see creatures from different dimensions and like speak to them about the different mindsets of things like that. It would be a very beefy book about concepts of reality and life and things like that. So it's definitely a little bit of a different direction, but I think it would be interesting to see, the life-death cycle beliefs of beings of great power and how they view things.
Yeah. So, mine's in the same vein. It would be interesting to be like a slave of the illithid, and then like during some time when you're like free to do whatever you want, like wander or whatever, you notice like an ethereal like throbbing glow in the corner off away from the city, and like the closer you get, the brighter it becomes, and like you just happen upon a group of Flumph where there's one Flumph in the center and like the others are like kind of like bouncing in a concentric circles around him and like glowing brighter and brighter, and like it culminates to this like flash of light, and the Flumph in the center is gone, but like there's like this deflated sack on the ground that looks like a Flumph, and like all of the Flumph are in like very like happy colors, and they still float, but the circles like dissipate their form and stuff. And like if you choose to ask, they'll tell you that it was like a moment of enlightenment where like one Flumph kind of just decided that he was going to go spend time away from his body,
That's cool.
Because like that, it interests me that they are like planar like travelers, and that their bodies can be reformed, which would lead you to like think that maybe they don't care too much about the physical bond, and that it's a moment of great transcending that they leave it. And it would be cool to see that, I think.
That'd be an interesting encounter for sure.
Mm-hmm.
I would ask.
Yeah.
Like, why are y'all so happy?
Right? Like that dude just fucking popped.
My mind immediately went to how can I use them in space in our adventures of Beetle and Barb.
They fit well there.
They would fit well there. I don't know. They could be like on like, what are they called when you like send like the person you like send down to be like, join us. Hello.
Oh yeah, you're like
envoys, ambassador. Yeah.
Yeah, like kind of like that, like to see if like the planet's open, like because they can.
They just run back glowing red. Nope.
like through like and like they can do it pretty darn far. So
yeah,
like
that's
that
cool.
would be cool.
They are a perfect little space guy.
Like a whole little society of them on our ship, and you just send them to worlds.
Yeah,
I like that. I mean, they could just astral project onto the planet and see what's going on.
That's what I was thinking.
Yeah,
that's dope.
That's super cool. Oh my goodness, one of them fell over. Oh, he's out. Yep. I have to go pick him up, guys. I feel real bad.
That turtle.
Oh, another one fell over. My goodness.
Oh.
They're turning red. Oh, one of them's blue. I'm not sure what that means. Okay.
Sad.
Well, I'm gonna have to go take care of that. These helpless little Flumphs. That's poison spray. Oh my god. All right. I think that's our Mornings with Monster this week. Make sure you tune in next week for another morning with another monster. I'm Dylan.
I'm Alina.
I'm Alex. Oh, sorry, I'm Alex.
We'll see you next time. Bye.